Hey everyone, welcome back. Get ready because today we're diving into a life that's got more hits than, you'll see. We're talking Pete Rose,
Baseball legend.
gone way too soon at 83.
Yeah, just passed recently.
And look, you might think you've heard it all when it comes to Pete Rose, but trust me, there's a whole other game going on beyond the headlines. We've been digging into some articles from the Daily Beast, and let me tell you, they paint a picture of a guy who was practically born swinging. But first, we got to talk about those stats.
Oh, here we go.
Get this. 4,256 hits.
4,000.
Seriously, 4,256 hits. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more unbelievable, how about 17-time All-Star?
And let me tell you, those numbers, they're not just impressive, that's Hall of Fame territory right
Up
there.
for the park.
To be an all-star, I mean, that's the best of the best. But 17 times, you're talking about nearly 2 decades at the very, very top.
The best of the best for, ever.
And remember, this is during the Big Red Machine era.
Oh, yeah, the Cincinnati Reds in the 70s.
A powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most dominant teams in baseball history. Which, makes Rose's accomplishments even more incredible when you think about it.
Totally. And I love how the Daily Beast captures his playing style. They quote this sports writer, Jim Murray.
A fantastic writer.
The best. Anyway, Murray said Rose played get this, a leopard going after a zebra, and that he'd grab his batting helmet with one hand and go tearing down to first base as if every hound in hell were chasing after him.
Charlie Hustle.
Talk about intensity.
It's wild, right? Because his style of play, that hustle, that fire, it wasn't just fun to watch. I mean, yeah, it was fun to watch, but it also really changed how teams thought about getting runs, how they thought about offense.
So it wasn't just about hitting home runs?
No, he wasn't just swinging for the fences. Rose was about pushing for every single base, forcing the other team to make plays. And that kind of intensity, that's where the nickname Charlie Hustle comes from.
And speaking of intensity, we got to talk World Series wins. 3 titles. 2 with the Reds, of course. But here's a curveball. He won 1 with the Phillies.
Who would have thought?
Talk about a plot twist.
And that's what makes this whole thing, more than just a baseball story. Because after playing, what did he do? He became a coach, managed the Reds for a while.
Really got into the strategy side of things.
So we're not just talking about a career defined by hitting a ball.
Yeah.
We're talking about someone who really left their mark on the game from all sides. But then, there's that other side to the story.
The elephant in the dugout, you could say.
Exactly. The stuff off the field that casts a shadow over everything.
Yeah, 1989, the whole baseball world kind of had to hit the showers when this scandal broke. Rose was accused of gambling.
And not just like a friendly wager here or there.
No, we're talking serious betting.
As a player, and then as a manager.
Which, talk about a conflict of interest.
I mean, this wasn't just bending the rules. This was like shattering the bats. Gambling in baseball, it's the ultimate no-go. You just don't do it.
And for good reason, right?
Big time. I mean, think about it. This is a sport that's still trying to outrun its past.
The Black Sox scandal.
1919. Players throwing the World Series for a payday. It almost destroyed baseball.
Yeah, you can't mess with the integrity of the game.
Exactly. And when you have someone, especially in a position of power, like a manager, even suspected of betting, it throws everything into question.
Were they making calls based on their bets instead of what was best for the team?
Right. It just leaves this giant question mark hanging over everything.
Yeah.
And for Rose, he denied it.
At first, yeah, flat out denied any wrongdoing.
Swore up and down. But then
in his autobiography,
years later,
he drops this truth bomb, admits he bet on baseball.
On baseball. But never against his own team, he says.
Which, I don't know, does that make it better? Worse?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's been dividing fans forever.
Because it's complicated,
Totally. It's like, on the one hand, you've got Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, the guy who played like every game was his last. And he loved baseball.
You could see it.
But then he also took a gamble that went against everything baseball stands for.
So how do you reconcile those two things?
It's almost Shakespearean. You've got this larger-than-life figure.
An icon.
Brought down by something human.
A mistake.
And it reminds us that sometimes even our biggest heroes, they're flawed.
It's like trying to catch a fly ball in a tornado.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to make sense of it all?
And that's what makes Pete Rose and this whole situation so fascinating, so human,
Totally. It goes way beyond the box score. It makes you ask some tough questions.
About how we define success, especially when someone achieves so much, yet stumbles in such a big way.
Right, like can you separate the player from the mistake?
It's the age-old question, isn't it? Can you separate the art from the artist?
And these aren't just questions for baseball fans, are they?
Not at all. They're questions we face in all parts of life, in every arena.
It really does make you think about your own experiences, your own relationship with success, with failure, with making those tough calls.
Absolutely. And the pressure Rose must have felt to be Charlie Hustle every single day, every game,
Unbelievable.
and then to risk it all on a gamble like that.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And speaking of consequences, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the Hall of Fame.
Right, because that lifetime ban, that's still a major sticking point for a lot of people.
Huge.
Should he be in despite everything? Or does that one decision, as bad as it was, overshadow everything else he accomplished?
There are strong opinions on both sides, and for good reason. It's been hotly debated for decades. Some folks, they believe Rose's on-field achievements, they speak for themselves. He deserves a place among the legends.
Make way for Charlie Hustle.
Exactly. But then you have others who say, hold on a minute, that ban, that choice he made, it's a part of his story.
It can't be ignored.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even the most talented, the most celebrated, we're all accountable for our actions.
And that sometimes even the biggest legends, they're human too. They make mistakes. Big ones.
And those mistakes, they become part of the legacy, right?
It's true, and it's a reminder that legacies, they're rarely simple, they're messy, full of contradictions.
Just like life itself. Pete Rose, the player, the manager, the legend, the rule breaker. It's a story full of highs and lows, brilliance and blunders.
Absolutely, and that's what makes it so captivating, so thought-provoking. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the life of Pete Rose, a life that continues to spark debate and teach us about success, failure, and the long shadow of our choices.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.